Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology, and I hope that you are doing well and you're ready for today's program, because today on the show, you may have guessed it, we have Nathan Evans. He is with Calcopia, and yeah, this is going to be a show all about kind of current events, headlines, pop culture. We're going to talk about some movies, we're going to talk about some games, we're going to talk about, Steam machines, for instance. Who doesn't want to spend a couple extra $100 to, get something that you could have got? Well, not Steam machines, Steam Deck. I'm sorry, they are very different things. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a nice little smorgasbord, cornucopia of different things here with Calcopia. So if you are confused about any of that, don't worry. The show notes after the program, when we put them up, they will have links to all of the articles, all the websites, including our guest website. So you can go to one simple place, click the link, and navigate to what you need to find. So with all that being said, check us out on social media, all that good stuff, podcasts. I apologize beforehand if you hear any strange noises. We are building an ark in our backyard, so hopefully that comes together here soon before the end times. Now, everyone, let's go ahead, bring Nathan on, and just have fun with a nice, lovely, relaxing Friday. Once again, Calcopia, managing editor of an amazing cast and crew of writers. Always love having them on the program. And yeah, Nathan, how you been?
Crew, we are on our 12th week on Broadway, sellout shows. No, thank you for coming back. I know we missed each other last month, and let's not do that again. Let's do 3 times a month, 4 times a month, every day.
I think we can. In fact, if we can bend time and have each other on every hour, twice every hour, that'd be good.
And we'll do that, and we will also synergize politics so no one ever complains about anything ever again while we're at it.
I think only AI can do all of this, because AI apparently can do anything and everything, except turn a profit. But that's not the important part right now. That's for later. But yeah, Nathan, welcome back on the program. It's been a wild couple of weeks for you. We talked about that before the show. But just speaking about your writers, and the website, how has everything been?
Busy. You're doing bathroom renovations, so am I, but we're doing website renovations. We're going to be improving the website, updating this, updating that. You have to. You got to keep up with the times. You got to change the font, as they say. Have you noticed that? I see this all the time when do you remember years and years ago? I think it was Marissa Myers from Yahoo, when she became the CEO. This was a big deal, and her big innovation was she changed the font of Yahoo. And Microsoft has a new CEO for Xbox. I forget her name. And her big thing is she changed the logo of Xbox. It's I wish my job was like that. Can you imagine? What'd you do today? I changed the font.
Yeah. What was your big, idea to shake it up? Which, we can talk about that just for a second. I'm there's been some big shakeups. Honestly, I thought Xbox and Microsoft was kind of moving away from the gaming space. Turns out, yeah, they brought someone in. They're everyone still remembers Xbox. Throw it back to the Xbox, And
I have a different opinion of that. But I don't know how to explain it. It would sound negative if I said. I can say, do you want me to be negative or do you want me to be positive?
Give it the most positive spin you can while still saying your true feelings on the matter.
Okay. I feel that it is a case of you are, how do I say this? Microsoft, as you've seen with Nvidia, the gaming sector does not make a lot of money for these tech companies. As soon as they find a way out of the gaming sector, they run, because why would you focus 95% of your time on a profit on a sector that only gives you 5% of your profit, right? You're not going to do that. Microsoft does not make any money on gaming. They haven't made any money on gaming in 26 years. It's a loss leader. The idea was always to be not a competitor to Sony and Nintendo, but to introduce the Microsoft brand into the home.
Gaming does, and for someone who games as much as I do, which is probably too much, it always does feel like your local insurance agents sponsoring the Little League baseball team in town. It's like I don't think they really care that much. It's something they can point to and go, look at us.
Well, the idea is that, and by the way, it's a good idea. Microsoft excels in software. They excel at Windows. They excel in Office. They do Azure web hosting. So the idea is that they're not going to sit. They're not like a Nintendo where their entire identity is wrapped around managing very specific IPs. This is their bread and butter. It's why same with Sony. Sony is not a company that got into the business of gaming. They are a company that bought into the business of gaming, like Columbia Pictures with movies and stuff like that. Microsoft, they run gaming as a sector, but it's a parallel development to Windows. And so the idea is that they're competing against themselves. You have, on one hand, you sell people Microsoft Windows that has a gaming platform on it. Now you want to sell them a dedicated hardware unit that also has gaming on it. And as you've seen in the last 10 years, they've begun merging them because it's become redundant. You're competing against yourselves. If you create a Gears of War game or a Halo game, and you limit your user base to the finite conscripted level of a console, the best-selling game console Microsoft has ever had was Xbox 360, sold almost 90 million units, then you're never going to sell more than X amount of software. But if you expand that to the PC and PlayStation, whatever, you're going to have unlimited sales. The biggest piece of software Microsoft has ever sold, the single piece of software, is Minecraft. And they would never have gotten that sort of reach or financial windfall if it was just limited to the Xbox.
Right.
They're not Nintendo. They don't have that type of cachet. This is not 2001 or 2004. No one's lining up to play Halo and Gears of War anymore. You can't do it. That's why they bought it.
They made Minecraft as available as Space Pinball, back on Windows
95
machines. Yeah.
But they didn't buy Call of Duty. They didn't buy Activision just to put it on Xbox. It wouldn't make any money. New Call of Duty just got announced last week. It's the first Call of Duty on Nintendo platform. It's going to be on Switch too.
They're putting it everywhere. They're even putting it on Sony, right, or PlayStation.
Well, it's always been on PlayStation, but it's never been on. The main line hasn't been on a Nintendo platform in 20 years.
So what you're right. What I'm thinking of is Sony tried to block the merger of Activision Blizzard and the acquisition by Microsoft because they were worried that such a big selling title would be exclusive to their console. But it was
never going to happen. Like Microsoft would not pay $70 billion to make $500 million. It's just not feasible to do that. But
I mean, again, in the world of AI, those numbers don't seem that crazy. That about adds up.
You can't make money if you don't sell software. It's blazing razors. It's loss leading. If you want to make more money, you put the software on more platforms. Unless you have killer software, and that is your lifeblood. Again, that's why Mario is not on Xbox and PlayStation, only on Nintendo. Meanwhile, Sony games are on PC, on console. Microsoft games are on, they're in different businesses. Can I say that? They're in very different businesses. So Microsoft is not a gaming company. This new CEO, she is taking her entire, if you look at what she's done, all she's done is reverse things. She's made a new logo, and she's reversed the price increase of Xbox Gaming Pass. She quelled the bleeding.
I want to say that she, it went from $15 a month, and I don't know the exact numbers, 15 to 25 or something, and then she backed it down to 18. And again, those are all made up numbers. She didn't even bring it all the way back down, right?
It's called New Coke. So in the 80s when
I remember New Coke, yeah,
in the 80s when
Classic
Coca-Cola.
Coke.
It's a conspiracy, but I believe the conspiracy, by the way. I completely believe it. Coca-Cola brings out this new thing called New Coke. It's going to be great. It is disgusting. Nobody likes it. We want old Coke back. Okay, we heard you. We're going to bring old Coke back. We're going to call it Classic. Not called Coca-Cola. It's called Coca-Cola Classic. And when they brought it back, it wasn't the same. They had switched the formula. They had switched the formula from cane sugar to high fructose corn syrup, but it tasted so close to the old Coke. People are like, oh, we got Coca-Cola back. So
they did the same thing to Slurm. I remember.
Slurm comes out of a butt. But no, the fact is that with Microsoft, look, I've said this before, I'm not a naysayer. I think she's there to stem the bleeding as Microsoft continues the transition they need to becoming a hardware manufacturer to a software publisher. This is how they make money. Mm-hmm. And they are not going to make any money making it because, first of all, there is no desire for an Xbox console in the gaming sector. There is no room for it.
You know, I would have said that a year or two ago. I'd be like, absolutely. You know, Microsoft is kind of filling that space and blah, blah, blah. But with the insanity going on with hardware right now, I will say, seeing, you know, consoles that are a couple of years old, and again, I apologize for the noise in the background, but it is seeing hardware that's like a couple years old actually going up in price because of the RAM shortage and the memory, you know, shortage and all that kind of stuff. I'm actually kind of wavering back towards, if people can get a gaming console that can run their games and not have to worry about the price of a PC, it's kind of making a comeback. It's kind of becoming trendy again to get a dedicated gaming console. And that's just like within the past 6 months.
Have you ever heard of this phrase? Let me see. I'm going to make sure I get the right phrase from you. Mm-hmm. It was called lateral thinking with withered technology. Have you heard of this?
No.
It was from a Nintendo developer, actually, a very famous man called Gunpei Yokoi, the guy who created the Game Boy. He died years and years ago in a car accident. But his thing, lateral thinking, that you don't need bleeding edge technology to create compelling experiences. An example outside of gaming would be VCRs, which we'll talk about later, or CDs, or even records, is the fact that if you're Taylor Swift and you put out a new album, your album does not need only to be available on high def, like lossless audio Spotify. You could put that on technology that's 80 years old, like vinyl, and it will sell really well if the experience is good. And so what Nintendo has done, they've taken technology. This is their entire business. They can't compete with Microsoft and Sony on loss leading, RAM and VRAM and GPUs. So what they do is they take older technology and they focus on the experience. This is nothing new. They've been doing this for years, and they do way better at that than Sony and Microsoft. So how come Nintendo, a company that is 1/50th as big as Microsoft, can so outpace them at this one field? Because it's their field. Microsoft, when I hear this new CEO, she sounds like a tech person. She does not sound. She's like, we're going to do corporate strategies and margins. Like no kid wants to play corporate strategy and margins. They want to play Halo, Gears of War. They don't want to play margin strategy. This isn't a spreadsheet. Spreadsheets aren't cool.
They want to see Destiny 2 put in the dumpster and burned. Yes, that's what they want to see.
Yeah, that's Sony for you. But Microsoft and Sony, as they basically just pummeled over their development studios, they've acquired every studio they can. We've acquired, Microsoft acquired Activision, Sony acquired Bungie, and they produce these gigantic flops that nobody wants to play because they're not thinking in terms of where the industry is going. They're looking at where it was yesterday. Like Wayne Gretzky used to say, the hockey player, he said, I never shoot where the puck I aim where the puck's going to be.
Yeah.
And again, Nintendo, I'm not trying to evangelize Nintendo, but they've done so much better at this. Like insanely better at this.
You included a couple of stories, and we're going to kind of go through these and honestly, the conversation I think can flow really well with everything that we talked about. You wanted to say a quick, I don't actually have a, again, I paused. Happy birthday to the Switch 2, the first birthday.
Yeah. Today,
and
actually.
that really flows in with the hardware conversation you were just having, where it wasn't the most advanced, it wasn't the craziest upgrade from the Switch 1, but I mean, I would say the Switch 2 has been a worthy successor to the Switch 1.
Well, it's because it's a boring upgrade. It's a very I don't want to say minimal. By Nintendo standards, it's very boring. It's a technology upgrade. It looks pretty much the same. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if you've played the Switch 2 versus Switch 1, there's a lot of upgrades. The magnetic Joy-Cons, it's clearly a more powerful system.
But I mean, like the Switch 1 had a lot of upgrades it could have had when the Switch 1 was released. So, I mean, they were always, kind of one step behind.
Well, I think the Switch 1 is a more impressive console, like when you consider like how backwards the technology was even at the time it came out, and what Nintendo was able to achieve with this ancient technology. they were able to create an entirely new space within the gaming thing, which I believe, again, you look at Microsoft and Sony and everything, they are trying really hard to play catch up, and they can't do it because they miss the point. The point is, you don't give someone a $2,000 handheld that can play everything. You give them a $500 handheld that can play what they want to play. And one of the biggest selling point of Nintendo Switch wasn't that it was portable, or it wasn't that it was a portable system you could link in your house, is that it was good enough to play the games that the kids wanted to play. And it played it fine. Was it bleeding edge? No, not even close. But the trend at the time was for more lo-fi games, more independent games, more cheaper games. And you could get that on Nintendo. And you didn't need a $700 PlayStation 5 that weighed 60 pounds on your TV when you could have this tiny little system that did good enough.
And then, as always, just in Nintendo fashion, they also had a highly stylized, good-looking Mario game, Mario Kart World, and this is again just speaking to the Switch 2, but they even had good-looking games. It's not seeing let's see, what are some recent games that came out? There are some games that came out very recently. The James Bond one, I won't say it's the best looking game, but it's very good.
I don't think it's out on the Switch 2 yet, though. It's
no.
Yeah, but it's supposed to launch on the Switch 2. Same with the Batman Lego game, which got delayed. And so, but the fact is that the Switch 2, I would say Nintendo was able to release Capcom games like Resident Evil Requiem or Pragmata. These are games that were considered AAA games on the PlayStation, and they're very good on the Switch 2. They're very good. Are they as good? No, but they're good enough. They're so close. And you know what I mean? And you can play them in your car. You can't do that with a PlayStation. And so I think what's happening is that the biggest innovation for the Switch 2 is the fact that it did use forward-thinking technologies like super sampling, VRR, and DLSS, and that helped this technology that's probably circa 2014, if I'm being honest with you, to compete. And I think that's really an indictment of the way game development is today, that we've so focused on fidelity and photorealism, and I don't think that translates to better games. In fact, I think there's a big... Yeah,
I've actually heard the complaints that this is actually with the 007. I watch people play games. It's a weird hobby, but you watch streamers, you do what you do.
Huge, big thing.
And one of them was they played 007, but they kind of stopped, and they said one of the reasons was with their space age computer, which some people will spend $8,000 on a computer, and for streaming, that's what he had, and he had an $8,000 computer. And the game was still going down to 15 FPS during cutscenes and whatnot. And it's unoptimized games are
the problem.
Not selling it either.
That's the problem. And again, if your reputation is built on producing a quality product, I'll go back to Nintendo again for a second. You don't hear about this happening with Nintendo software. You don't say, "Oh, the new Mario game is riddled with bugs. It's great." No, you just don't see it because Nintendo would cease to be a company if they release shoddy products like that.
They have good quality.
They literally have the gold standard. Literally the gold standard. Like they are, to be honest with you, they're probably the only gaming publisher that develops hardware anymore. Like we talk about Valve, and I know you want to talk about the Steam Machine is supposed to come out. The Steam Machine, the long way Steam Machine, but that's not what people think it is, Ben. Like the Steam Machine is not a console. It is a PC. It is a PC that is designed to run on Linux, their Linux-based system on a TV as easy as a console. And to their credit, they've done a very good job with the Steam Deck, by the way, which is a clone of the Nintendo Switch. Yeah. A good clone, the only successful one. And they were successful.
An amazing clone that just had its price increased by like $100 and $150 or something like that.
They're phasing it out. That's what it means. But the fact is that they were able to bring out a respectable gaming PC that was dedicated to one thing, and the price was under $500, which is the Switch price. And did it sell 25 million? No, it sold like maybe 4, maybe 5. Maybe I would say maybe 4.5, 5 million for the Steam Deck, which is good.
Yeah.
I mean, but you couldn't sustain that as a company. That's a side project. Okay, that's a side project. But the fact is that so there's this new Steam box coming out, which is a dedicated PC, and on paper it's obsolete. It's like Nintendo. It's got very old technology. It's not going to do bleeding edge, but it's designed to hook in front of your TV and play out of the box. Do I think it's going to be successful? No, I don't. I don't see it. I see it as a project. They haven't announced the price, which means the price is going to be very high. That's what it means. If the price was low, they would have announced it. If the price is high,
and I know that you don't know any numbers. No one knows any numbers. We can all speculate. Take a shot in the dark for what a Steam machine would cost.
$1,000.
$1,000 starting?
Yeah, the controller is $100.
So a lot of the controllers are crazy. A lot of the kind of recent hardware that we've seen, they kind of take the Apple model where it's like, this one is, let's say 500, and then you want to double the RAM, okay, double the price, and like just with one modification for the amount of storage that you get, the amount of memory that you have. I think it definitely starts at about 1,000. How high do you think something like a Steam Deck would go?
The way it usually goes is that hardware manufacturer puts an order into the company. In the case of most gaming companies, AMD, they say, "Here's this bespoke chip set that we want you to make. We can guarantee 10 million, so we're going to get a discount, right?" That's not what happened with Nintendo Switch. What happened with the original Switch is that Nvidia had a bunch of old technology basically lying around. They had produced
the old
Nvidia
Shield. Right?
Yeah, and so Nintendo says we can work with this. We can work with this. That's what happened with the Steam Deck. Is that AMD basically had old chipsets lying around that Valve kind of bought up and repurposed. Apple did the same thing with the MacBook Neo. You know what I mean? Like we can repurpose iPhone chips, which is great, by the way. This is a great way to make use of money. But the problem is that when you have bespoke, which means Sony and Microsoft will go to AMD and say, make this chipset for us, and we will guarantee you at least 20 million. Okay.
Yeah.
Valve can't do that. So the problem is, in order to get this product to market, they're going to have to pass that cost to the consumer. And this is what happens. This is a hack you can use, Ben. If you see a new product come out and it's way overpriced, that means that the company does not have faith it's going to sell in numbers. That's why if you go to Best Buy, if you go to Newegg and you look at these Windows gaming handhelds, they're all $900, $1,200. Because the company cannot make money off them otherwise. There's no loss.
I was just thinking of like the bifold phones and whatnot, and the bendy screen phones that were like $2,500 for a phone versus like $1,200.
The Apple Vision Pro, it's $3,500.
Yeah, that's a great example too.
Didn't sell. Like this is Apple, a company. Apple is the biggest company in the world. That thing should have been $599. They should have subsidized it to build a market. Apple knew exactly what we knew. There's no market for VR. There's no market. It's a genre. We keep saying this, and they never listen.
It's just, I know they don't listen to us. If only they would. I'm sure Apple would be.
I mean, we just have 30 years of data to show that this is a niche product. Okay, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like Hummers. No, you're not going to buy it. If you have to reduce the cost of a Hummer to the point where it's accessible, it's not a Hummer anymore. You know what I mean? But anyway, what I was saying is, the way console people make money is they make money through subsidized software. Sony gets a cut of every PlayStation game that sells. Microsoft gets a cut of every game that's sold through the Xbox store. Valve gets a cut of every game that's sold through thing. The problem is that there doesn't seem to be any evidence showing that the Steam box would be the primary motivating thing. It's designed to play games you already have. And there is no way a dedicated PC person who loves their $8,000 gaming PC and their $2,000 video card is going to throw that out the window to get a massively underpowered box that limits the performance of their bleeding edge games to console level. They're not going to do that. Not going to do that.
There's a passion project for Gabe Newell in particular, who wants his stuff on Linux. He wants all the games to be runnable on Linux. So this feels like a passion project.
It's a cool idea, but this is an accessory to PC gaming. You understand? This is an accessory. And Valve has been trying this for years. They tried it with the Steam Link. They've done it with, we've all run the HDMI cable from the PC to the thing. Big picture mode is great. They've done the work. And they deserve to be successful up to a point, right? But let's not kid ourselves, is that we need to talk about the evolution of the home PC as a gaming platform, and that's a different conversation. But I'm sure the Steam box will be cool. I'm sure the technology will be very interesting to see how they've made it work. But as I've explained, is that it will not be the destination of people who already have a Windows PC and a big library. It's just why would it be?
Yeah, the console market really seems like it has gotten competitive, not because, the console wars are heating up or anything like that. Just the price to make hardware has gotten really difficult, and, just justifying its existence has gotten really difficult. So to have another competitor out there, I don't think it upends the whole market, but it does kind of say, hey, there's other people willing to come up in the field.
There is one more thing I was going to say, and this is just a bias that I'm speaking towards, is that the whole point of a console is either commercial or creative. So if you have a game console like the Switch 2 versus the PlayStation 5, you buy a PlayStation 5, there's an expectation that you're going to get bleeding edge performance, so to speak, for a console. This is going to be the way to play the big boy games, to play the Resident Evil, to play the Grand Theft Auto 6 when it comes out. This is going to be the
new God of War, yes.
Yeah, this is, PC people will laugh and say, oh, PlayStation's not the problem. No, PlayStation games sell way better than Steam games. Like if you're a publisher, you make all your money on console. You make very little money on PC. It's just the way it is. PC people do not pay $80 for games. They wait till the discounts. Yep. And publishers know this. Console people pay brand new prices. That's why they are so sought after. It's like iPhone. iPhone only has the 25% of the market. Like Android commands 75% of the market, but that market is riddled with garbage. So premium.
Let's see, Apple iOS Store profit
market share. It's not even close.
Yeah. Looks like Google Play Store, but then I want to say that iOS has 80% of all sales within mobile apps, and then Google Play Store, which is 2 or 3 times bigger, has only 20% of the profits.
Exactly. So. It's the way it goes. So what happens though is if you have a Nintendo Switch versus a PlayStation 5, is that you have to realize if you give someone a $500 Switch, there's no expectation that's going to be the bleeding edge thing. I played Resident Evil Requiem on the PC, on a bleeding edge PC versus a Switch, and honestly, they're almost the same. I played Pragmata on the Switch versus the PC, and it's just when I do play games, it's just you're sacrificing power and fidelity for ease of use and portability.
Right.
And that sacrifice is way smaller than it's ever been. It's not that big of a sacrifice.
Speaking of sacrifices,
yeah,
let's talk real quick about Nvidia, and maybe let's see if I can tie this in. Sacrificing Intel and AMD to the fire, and they are finally releasing their own CPU. That's different.
I will say this because we might come back to this when you talk about Nvidia regarding the synergy of the Spark chip. Is that my thing is that the Steambox was built on yesterday's technology, which is still great, by the way. It's still good, but that technology cost more. And so if the Steambox costs less than $1,000, I'll buy you lunch. That's what I'm saying. I don't see how it's less than $1,000.
Ever since they came out with the Steam Machine a while ago, and I want to say that one of its mid price points was $3,500. I was like, I don't have high hope as Valve as a true hardware manufacturer. And their most recent controller was actually kind of a flop because it wasn't as good as I think people expected it to be.
Well, here's the thing: the scalpers kind of screwed it up too. They I've heard good things about the controller. I've heard good things, but I've only heard because I can't play the damn thing because I can't buy one. But anyway, so going back to Nvidia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's talk Nvidia.
Yeah, as far as I know, this is just a CPU. It uses the ARM-based architecture, so it's going to be pretty compatible right out of the box with everyone's laptops and PCs and whatnot. And really, it's just Nvidia has always been, if you're really old, Nvidia and Intel, hand in hand, developing the computer as we know it. Or more recently, it's AMD always had that special place that you could get an AMD CPU and an AMD GPU and it would work well. Nvidia always stayed to its lane, but I guess when you're $5 trillion worth and you're looking for more lanes to spread out on as you get to be this amorphous blob of profit, Intel now has another competitor, and I don't know. Did you watch the keynote, or did you just hear about it after the fact?
I saw it after the fact, but I saw the highlights. But here's the thing: to simplify it for the listener, basically, forget the hyperbole and say, oh, it's the greatest thing. No. This is their version of Apple's silicon. This is their version of a couple of years ago. Microsoft made a big deal because Microsoft had to partner with a company to do this, right? Mm-hmm. With Qualcomm to do the Copilot chips, remember? And I guess those weren't a big hit. And I'll tell you why. Like when you go to the computer store, like let's just say Best Buy, Apple is very much branding the M chips. Oh, it's the M4, it's the M5, and you see the power, and it's nice and clean, and it's the one product. Then you go to the Microsoft section with the Copilot, Qualcomm. It's a freaking mess. It's a mess. It's really, first of all, Copilot. That's the first problem. Don't call it Copilot. Even they're stepping back from that. But here's the thing. But that was Microsoft partnering with a company. They've done that before. When Sony developed Blu-ray, Microsoft partnered with Toshiba to do HD DVD. Mm-hmm. Microsoft partners with companies. Microsoft partnered with Asus to do an Xbox gaming portable. This is Nvidia doing it in-house. This is going to work. This is a game changer. This is a game changer because Nvidia is the biggest company in the world now, and they got that way not by selling nerds video cards, but by not selling nerds video cards, by going after commerce, by going after non-consumer based things, AI data centers and everything. And the big selling point that Jensen is it Jensen? What's his name? No, that's Supernatural. That's Supernatural. Sorry, yes. I got my Jensens confused. Leather Jacket Jensen. Can we call him? He did something brilliant. He did a Steve Jobs thing. He did the thing of, oh, one more thing. And he comes out and he shows two laptops running the game simultaneously. No, what he's doing is he said, he got right on top of this. He said, this is going to be AI, but it's going to be on your system and we're not going to control it. He got right in front of it because people don't want AI, some nebulous AI thing connecting them to the Borg, synergy. And he said, this thing is going to be one chip, like the M chip, like Apple's M chip. It's going to be really powerful. It's going to be heat differential. And here's the problem, though. He didn't announce the price. But Apple was able to take their silicon, their non-Intel silicon, and make it cheaper. Like MacBooks became cheaper when Apple did this. That's crazy talk if you think about it. Like by going in-house, by developing
faster and more power efficient too.
Faster, more power, cheaper. Yeah, the MacBook Air is the best laptop on the market right now. Maybe not for all gaming, right? But from a power perspective, if you're a designer or whatever, it's way better than almost any Windows PC. And at the price, not even close. And they've been able to scale that down with the MacBook Neo with the iPhone chips, because the iPhone chip is basically what is it? It's a version of the M chip, the Apple Silicon chip without cores, I think it is, or CUDA cores. But what NVIDIA is going to do is the same thing, is that they can combine everything because they're in-house. They can prioritize their manufacturing, and and so what they could do is they can create these new things. If I were Intel, I'd be really worried right now.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think Intel has, kind of moved their, and this is talking about the whole business side of it. I would not be surprised if Intel is the one making half these chips, for NVIDIA.
They could become a manufacturer the same way. Like, people forget that AMD was basically a manufacturer that just decided to make their own stuff. Like, as a Chinese company, let's be honest, let's be generous here. A lot of Chinese big companies, that's how they got started. They manufactured stuff for other companies. They stole the designs and they started making their own stuff. This is how a lot of Chinese companies came to be. Right. You know this. And so, but AMD's problem is that they were never forward thinking. They were just, how can we make these chips more affordable, cheaper, and more efficient? But no one ever looked at AMD to be revolutionary. You went to AMD if you couldn't afford Intel. I have an AMD processor. I like it. I had a lot of problems with their GPUs though, so I had to go back to NVIDIA. But no, this is interesting. We're going to see what's going to happen. I don't want to overpromise.
It's not as it's more interesting to me than when Microsoft said we're going to come out with our own CPU, which was CPU. Microsoft came out with what was that? I want to say Spark, but it's not Spark. That's obviously what we were just talking about. What was Microsoft's hardware solution?
Copilot.
No. I'm sorry, not CPU, GPU. Microsoft came out with their own GPU. I don't even remember the name of that thing.
Intel did. Intel came out with Arc.
Was that it?
Uh-huh. Yeah. It was a huge failure. And
that's right. There was Intel Arc. You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
And there was actually news that they're going to try again. Like, people found out, like, a lot of people had the Intel, Arc, and it wouldn't play. Like, I think you couldn't play the James Bond Bond game with it and a few other things. It just wasn't compatible. And so, but I think I believe
this is more interesting to me than Intel's Arc, because I think Spark, they need to really differentiate these things, because I'm getting tired of mixing these up. But yeah, I think Nvidia can do this better than Intel.
Well, they're a better company. They're a better company that's situated better. You know what I mean? This is their space. And it's so funny to watch, because Nvidia started off as a partner, I think, for Sega back in the 90s. Like it's just so funny to see them grow and just become this company.
It definitely feels like, oh, that's my childhood friend right there. Look at him go. He's taken over governments. That's so nice of him.
We joked about this, but he's making that jacket work.
Yeah. It's but like, and do not get me wrong, all of this I still feel like is just a way to get out in front of the public, because they know that, you know, just like we talked about earlier, video games for Microsoft are a great way to kind of interface with the public. I think Nvidia, same thing, but they know their bread and butter, like you said, is AI, data centers, all that kind of thing. This chip is kind of the lead up to more efficient data centers, and they want to sell every part of a data center to companies.
Well, exactly. It allows them, because right now the word data center is bad. Like, it's in the news. It's bad. It's bad this, bad this. Where I live in the Midwest near Kansas, there's like 4 data centers going up, like engineers everywhere, bad mouthing, you know, because, it's making the water this, it's absorbing this, we have sound this. I don't know how true half that is, but I will say this. I don't think Nvidia gives 2 flying craps about gamers. I don't think they do. Sure. But this gives this chip a face the way you can't say data sets do. You can't show AI data on a cool laptop. You have to show gaming running on it, because graphics fast. But you're right, absolutely right. I think again, I go back to Apple, to be their credit, they don't really care about gaming either. They kind of give it a nod, but how else are you going to demonstrate the power? You can't render Photoshop in real time on a thing. You have to show fancy graphics flying around. And I want to see the price of this. The price is going to determine, but everything I said about subsidizing and loss leading, Nvidia can do that.
Yeah, I don't see them coming out with something that is, you know, markedly more expensive than the competition. Even if it's like the same price, same specs, it's going to come in at the same or slightly lower, even just for their first release. So,
well, can I give an example though? Mm-hmm. If we were to use this technology that they introduced, this new system on a chip, this new Spark chip, in the Steam machine, the Steam machine could be 4 times as powerful and be 4 times smaller. Yeah. And if it's subsidized through Nvidia, it could reasonably, depending on what the price is going to be, it would be way lower than $1,000. Like, so the generational shift that's going to happen is going to be determined by how Nvidia prices the stuff and how they make it accessible. That's it. Yeah. I mean, that's what it is.
It really isn't just a straight up evolution of system on chip, and a lot of things are going to head that way, because, you know, you used to need a different part to handle different parts of processing, but yeah, Nvidia really wants to bring that together closer, faster, more efficient, and it's hard to argue that that's not the way technology is going. It's not there yet. You know, this is going to be a niche within a market, but yeah.
I would see that the days of maybe going to Micro Center or ordering from Newegg and just assembling, you know, a PC the way you did, you know, case, motherboard, CPU, RAM.
Yeah, those highly recommend anyone out there about to go through that. Still to this day, PC part picker.
But those days, which have been, those days have existed for a very long time. Building a PC has changed very little in 30 years. They almost use the same parts. Those are probably going to change too.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think it's going to be more like maybe assembling a Lego kit at this point.
Yeah.
You know,
and assembling a Lego kit, and the Lego kit is one big block and you stick on the head, and there you go.
I hate to say it.
That's the Lego kit.
More console-like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, let's see, looking at some of the other stories here, just go, you know what, we've been talking high tech, we can go, you know, and the other 2 stories are, you know, kind of just topics of conversation, but this next one you included, I'm curious, you mentioned earlier Taylor Swift can put her music on a vinyl record, and if it's still an enjoyable experience, it doesn't have to be the best lossless audio that you heard, as long as it's fun and it's engaging, then it's worth it. Well, enter dare I say, I think maybe the first time in a long time I've said this, article from Variety. A movie going straight to VHS. What the heck? I understand vinyl, and I understand I don't appreciate vinyl, but I don't understand this.
Because you're not a music snob. Like, if you listen to, do you have Spotify or Apple Music or any of those?
Spotify, yeah.
Okay. So if you have Spotify, you put on your phone, put on your computer, just go outside for a jog, listen to anything. Quality is going to be what it is. Good enough. Good enough for vast majority of people. But if you had vinyl, you'd have to go, you couldn't do that. First of all, you couldn't go outside with vinyl. You have to stay inside. And you're not just going to have a vinyl record playing on you're going to have a nice sound system. You're going to have nice speakers. The wire is going to be gold plated. It's going to be anything but accessible. It's going to be very restrictive because you want the best. Now, whether vinyl gives you the best, but you'd never know, Ben, because you're going to have to get all these other components to make it sound better, right? You're not going to do that for Spotify. You know what I mean? But VHS, this story didn't surprise me as much as you'd think, because we've actually seen like movement towards this VHS resurgence the last couple of years.
I've seen a lot of movement towards CDs, and I think there's some kind of hidden nostalgia / kind of the younger generation coming up being like, ooh, CDs. But the article does lead with the last VCR player was made in 2016. Not which, I'm sure there's, record players that, well, although to be fair, record players are still being made by niche companies, but still 2016, 10 years later.
Well, like all things, doesn't happen in a vacuum. This is a result of a TikTok trend. Like TikTokers and everything, of course it is, right? No, there's been a big online movement to cut the cord, and a lot of people are trying to detox, digital detox, they call it. So what they do is they go to thrift stores. In fact, where you live, I'm not going to say the city, but you live, there's actually a very famous YouTuber who creates content out of your city, and all he does is go to thrift stores and try to find old technology.
Of course he does. Of course he does. I know this town.
Yeah, do you know who he is? But anyway, long story short, so people go buy VCRs, especially, Netflix is raising their price. I'll go to the thrift store and buy DVDs. But they find cassettes. They find cassettes. They listen to cassettes. They like the lo-fi of it. They like the VCRs because they like the idea of a linear experience.
It's romantic. It is.
VCR has become a filter for CRTs. It's become what they call the retro filter. It's all grainy and blurry. There's been a huge horror movie series the last 10 years called VHS, where it's just grainy, like 2-minute horror movies. Like there's like 10 of them or like whatever. And they just put that sloppy filter on there. Do you remember?
Because is there anything more scary than old technology? I think not.
Well, I mean, think about it though. You couldn't have a movie like, The Ring, which is about, watching a haunted VHS tape based on a MPEG file. It wouldn't be the same. Like whenever you have like one of those movies that's built around social media, nobody likes it. It looks weird. It doesn't have that comfy feeling that you get with VHS or even a DVD. You know what I mean? You need the lo-fi. You need the sounds. Like, did you know that you've seen RoboCop, right? The movie
yeah, of
RoboCop.
Course. Yeah.
You know the sound when RoboCop, when his leg opens up and he brings his gun out, like, that's a VHS player.
Yeah.
That's a VHS player. They just filmed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that you mention, even the mechanism itself, it does seem like a tape coming out of a VCR player. That is funny.
Yeah, but it's sort of like when we talk about special effects, practical effects versus CG. If you go back and watch a movie from the 80s, like The Thing or something, you're like, you watch the effects, like, how do they do that? You have to have someone explain it to you. Oh, they did rubber this, mask this. But if you watch special effects today, CG,
yeah.
CG. You know how they did it. And so VHS, you got to go out of your way. You got to take the tape out. You got to clean the tape. You got to you got to make sure you got to do so much stuff. There was actually a VHS tape that came out. Oh, there's actually been a couple, but the one that brings to mind is Sonic the Hedgehog had a VHS tape come out, I think last year or 2 years ago. There was another VHS, The Exorcist or something, had a version of the movie that came out on VHS.
I believe.
So this is nothing new, but people associate VHS with like lo-fi, maybe creepy horror now, and that's fine. You know what I mean? It's kind of like kids in the 70s that would listen to rock records back. They'd turn the record back and they'd hear Satan, speak on it.
So, and for anyone out there who's listening to this with small kids, I apologize for cursing, but this does seem like just the end result of enshittification, is that you take a product that is so good and you just make it worse, make it more expensive, and you really, kind of put the screws to your consumer because you have completely knocked out your competition. And I'm not saying 1,000 VHSs sold is the end of streaming. What I am saying is it has some people looking back fondly on what was my experience before this, because I'm kind of not really enjoying my experience now. And
if you go to Netflix or even Tubi, go to anything, and you get that feeling. You've done it too. What am I going to watch? You're just seeing all these tiles, right? These blank tiles, and you end up looking at the tiles more than you do watch the movie. But anybody who remembers Blockbuster Video or Video Library,
walking the aisles, of course.
Walking the aisles, you pick up the box, you look at it. Oh, this looks interesting, because they had to put more time into it. Because
you were walking in a Blockbuster, and that's not the fun part of your evening. You're just like, all right, let's just pick something and get out of here.
But the best part was people will tell you this is like, oh, the movie you wanted isn't in, so you go to the other aisle, you go to the older ones, and the box art would never match the movie. It'd be totally misleading. I'll give you a good one right now. Look this up on your thing. Look up Return of the Living Dead. The box cover.
I remember that one.
Return of the Living Dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
People love this movie. Okay, people have a lot of fondness for this movie. I love this movie too. But
trying to find one that I can really and for those watching the video portion, I'm kind of pulling it up.
Yeah. You see that?
Looks very grunge, very punk.
At no point in time are there ever radical zombies in that movie with mohawks, right?
Yes.
But you see that catches your eye. Like, look at that. I want to see that, right? And you're never going to see that in the movie, but you're going to see something close, right? Or Frank Frazetta, the great artist who did all the muscular, like, barbarian stuff. You're like, wow, this movie looks amazing. And then you watch the movie and it's low budget in the desert. The only time a barbarian movie ever looked like his cover artwork was Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Barbarian. But no, what I'm saying is, like, you had a lot of fun with that. There was a physicality that you just do not get. You do not get from digital. Same with vinyl. You go to the vinyl records, you get to pick up this nice big thing. You get to look at the artwork. You can't do that with digital. There's something to be said about the tangibility of it. I'm not saying it's better, but there is something missing when everything just becomes a digital product. Like, you're missing so much of it.
And the article itself, which we'll have a link in the show notes to it, but the article itself kind of says that when digital creations with AI, because everything's touched by AI, it's kind of devaluing, where anyone can go out and make, admittedly right now, like a 10-second clip or whatever, but the digital aspect of it is, Nathan, just like I think back in the day, turns out people could make a living being a photographer. They could go to, the rainforest somewhere, take pictures of animals and sell prints and stuff. But nowadays it's like everyone has a camera in your pocket. Having the availability and the ease of creation really devalues. Like, when was the last time you paid a lot of money for photography or for, photographs? Probably not recently. So it feels like AI has definitely taken some of the magic out of the digital effects and digital creation of movies, and this seems to be kind of the kickback to that. This is more physical.
I was going to say, I think the guy's full of shit. I don't think this has anything to do with the AI. I think this is he's just using buzzwords. There's absolutely there's nothing stopping anyone from making a movie on VHS if he wants to be gimmicky about it. I get that. But what we never talk about is the fact that people, and I hate to say this, Ben, and I'm not one of them, but I'm not against AI like a lot of people are. I think people misconstrue what AI is. I remember, and we could talk about this with the movie stuff later, but when Photoshop came out, the artists were poo-pooing it. Oh, it's not real. The digital brushes aren't real brushes. You're not really putting the lens flare on there. You're not learning the curvature. You're not mashing your own pastes and hues, and you're not learning how to do a sable brush with a brush stroke. There was that argument with it. And I remember this really well. And now we just say Photoshop is this. Photoshop is normal. And you have kids who have never touched a brush in their life. They have never they've never done a pigment wash. They don't even know what gesso is. They don't know this stuff. because all they
You
know
know
is
what I saw
Photoshop
the other
filters.
day? I saw on Reddit or some other social media. It was the Gemini, kind of logo, the little faded logo they put in the bottom right whenever something's created with Gemini. But it was on simply a screenshot, and then below that, a typical reaction meme image. And they used Gemini to stitch two pictures together, not blend them, not edit them, just literally just bam, put one above the other and then post it to social media. And I'm like,
Really?
that's what, like, AI is even replacing simple photo editing that you could do in Paint. It's that easy to use.
And the average person, though, who does not know how to draw, that doesn't know how to paint, or doesn't know how to make music, it reminds me of, there's a cartoonist called Harvey Pekar back in the 80s and 70s. And I really recommend this to people. If you haven't seen it, they made a movie with him, with Paul Giamatti 20 years ago called American Splendor. He was a partner of Robert Crumb, the cartoonist. And Harvey was just a normal guy who worked as a file clerk, and he had stories and he really wanted to do comics, but he couldn't draw. So he put an ad in the paper, and he made friends with Robert Crumb, and he just drew stick figures, but he couldn't draw. So he said, I'll write it, but you can draw it. So having a friend who could draw allowed him to become a very successful cartoonist. And you see a lot of children, especially black children back in the 70s and 80s, who couldn't go to Berkeley, couldn't go to music school and everything, right? They couldn't do this. They didn't have the music education. They didn't play the violin. They didn't do this stuff, but they got instruments from secondhand stores or the trash. And they learned and a piano with drum beats and everything. It could mimic a lot of that stuff, but they didn't have access to the brass drums or anything, but they learned to use the piano, and they created hip hop out of it. So I am open to the idea that someone does not have to be so elitist that there needs to be a fidelity to the real thing for it to be authentic. So yeah, I look at AI, and I've used, if AI can say, I can't draw very well, but can AI help me make a design so I can work with this? And people seem to think like, oh, make good movie. Oh, a good movie. No, it's not like that. Like, AI is a tool like anything else, and it sounds scary. Oh, it's going to put people out of business, work. Yeah, it will put some bad people out of work. Like, no one has gone to the theater and said, oh, this movie took $300 million to make, and the CG looks like shit. It looks like garbage. Oh, but they're overworked, and we had to do it. Okay, but then someone on an iPhone makes something in 10 seconds with a prompt, and it looks better. And there's no way we're going back from this. Like, they're going to see some amazing stuff from people who are going to be able to prompt their way and do it. And people talk about derivative. Don't get me started on derivative when every Marvel movie looks the same, and every DC movie looks the same, and every He-Man looks the same, and everything is trained on that stuff.
It's really these industries' own fault. And I always point to, or I've had it pointed out to me, and now I point to it as well. If you can just ask AI to say, make me a new Taylor Swift song, and it spits out something that sounds so much like Taylor Swift, maybe you've kind of been making to a formula for too much, and it's just easy.
No, it's worse than that. Like, there have been studies that did sonic testing, like sonic DNA testing of music, and the reason why so much music sounds the same is because it's all processed the same. I'm sorry, man, but are you not a real musician if you're using auto-tune? Are you not a real musician if you're using what's the software they use? Oh my god, what's the software
Yeah.
Oh my god, I can't.
I have seen the charts
now.
that like the lyrical diversity has gone down over the past 20, 30 years. The amount of instruments has gone down. The amount of complexity of the instruments, the beats, the
Logic Pro Tools. Okay, sorry. Yeah. And they all use the same stuff. They use the same beats, the same samples, the same product, the same this, same that. And the person writing the Taylor Swift songs, the same person writing the Sabrina Carpenter songs, same person writing the K-pop Demon Hunter songs, the same people doing the same things in the same way.
And that's just what AI excels at, is taking a pattern and extrapolating. Yeah.
Yeah. And after a while, it cannibalizes itself. Like, when Disney trained his artists, when he invented modern animation, he had his people go to the zoo. He had people come in and perform, and they would mimeograph and they'd photograph, and he trained them how to do animals. Look, I'll give you the best example in the world. Ready? This makes me happy. One of my favorite animators of all time is a man named Phil Tippett. Are you familiar with Phil Tippett?
Not off the top of my head.
You are very familiar with his work. he was basically one of the successors to Harryhausen, right? Trained under Harryhausen. He did Dragon Slayer back in the 80s, but he got famous for making half the special effects for Star Wars, the AT-ATs, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then you ever see RoboCop, ED-209? That was Phil Tippett. And he did so many other cool things. Howard the Duck, he did all this stuff. And so Spielberg loved Phil Tippett. He said, you're going to do the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. And so he made all these stop motion dinosaurs. You could still see it. And then during the production of Jurassic Park, CG. And Spielberg had to make a choice. And he's like, Phil, I'm sorry, your dinosaurs look great, but we got to go with CG. And Phil's like, oh shit. He's like, I'm going to be obsolete. I'm out of a job. And Spielberg's like, no, you're not. They can animate them, but they don't know how to move them. So Tippett, with his intricate knowledge of how animals move, trained the CG people on how to make dinosaurs move. And he's got one of the biggest credits in Jurassic Park, dinosaur expert. He didn't stop there. He learned how to do CG better, and he learned physical. And his next movie, I think, looks even more impressive. He did Starship Troopers. If you watch Starship Troopers, that's all Phil Tippett.
Yeah,
and
them bugs.
You ready for this? This gets better. This year, I didn't see it, but The Mandalorian and Grogu has a completely stop-motion character where they brought Phil Tippett back.
Oh, yeah.
So if you watch Grogu, there is a character in that movie that is hand animated by Phil Tippett in 2026 using old technology because he's so good at animation, right? And I could go off Phil Tippett all day, but you have a guy who's so creative that he is willing, that he is able to compete with that sort of thing because he was trained on animation and how movement. But now you have so many kids that have never been to a zoo, that don't know animals. They're just trained on other movies and other animation they saw, and it shows. Movements aren't real. Look at how many times have you seen a cartoon character with his arms crossed, like I have attitude, or I'm going to raise my. They call it Pixar face. You can look it up because it's derivative. It's cannibalizing itself.
Yeah,
and
it's and this is something, and we're gonna move on in here in a second. But I will say that AI, I really do feel like if you were to, train AI a couple of years ago, you had the entirety of the internet, you had all of the data, good. If you had to retrain AI today, and it really is a problem of it's almost like AI incest. Like there's a term for it where AI is training its models off of other AI generated stuff, usually on worse AI models than it itself is supposed to be. It just doesn't have the clean data that it needs to make better models. Like models are actually, in some cases, getting worse because the data that's out there. And we have a story that, I just want to touch on real quick, that web traffic, 57% of all web traffic, and that's not, creations and photos and films and all that kind of thing, just general traffic requests. 57% are through automated bots and other bot requests, which doesn't 100% mean AI, but in a lot of cases does mean AI as well as other automation. And 42% are human generated, which just means that the internet as we know it is already changed. The internet for AI to be trained already changed. AI is just, it's ruining itself at the same time it is revolutionizing, the services that we're using.
It's a new technology. Like it's not new, but it's open technology now. And I think, they'll eventually figure out how to ruin it and to make it less fun or to corral it and make it more useful. But like I said, every new tech, like I go back to like 2002. Mm-hmm. If you've ever seen 28 Days Later, the first zombie movie, or even Star Wars Attack of the Clones, those were the first digital video movies. Like if you go back and just look at a frame of 28 Days Later, it looks really grainy and really low look because Danny Boyle used a Sony camera, Handycam, and he made it and it looked like a VHS quality, blown up. Star Wars Attack of the Clones was the first major movie to use digital to replace film. And there are still people today that say, oh, digital's not any good. Digital's gotten way better. But at the time it was hard because it wouldn't light correctly, it wouldn't do this. But film was really expensive. And now people choose to shoot on film because they like the warmth of it. They like the crackle of it. We're going to use lenses from Lawrence of Arabia back in the 60s. We're going to do all that shit. But meanwhile, you get YouTubers, which we'll talk about, that just film on iPhones because they want to get the movie out. Because it's the accessibility. People never talk about it's the accessibility that you're allowing people who wouldn't have it, and you're taking away the elitist fundamentalism. Like when I grew up in the world where if you wanted to work in publishing, you had to work at a magazine, which means you had to move to a big city. If you wanted to do this, you want to make a movie, you had to move to California. You want to work at a magazine, you got to move to New York or whatever. You don't have to do that anymore. Like the internet did it ruin those jobs? Did it ruin newspapers? Yes. Did it create way more business elsewhere? Yes. Like nothing lasts forever.
Yeah, we experienced it here on Computer America, of course. Craig used to have to go into the studio, and then we got an ISDN line to our house, and that was super expensive, but he was able to do it out of his home. And now anyone can start a podcast and make a program as good as radio. In fact, better quality, I think.
Better quality.
But anyone can do it with a phone.
But most people who do it are terrible at it. But the ones who are good at it that never would have had that opportunity are going to rise forward. That's what the internet brought. Like Western Union, everyone thinks money transfers now money. No, they were the ones they were there before the phone. When you had to like Western Union, I got to send a telegram to Ben. Ben, what time is show today? Stop. We're going to do the show today. Stop. Here's the stories. Stop. And then a courier would go to your house and read you the message. Now, they could have set up, the phone's here, we're dead, we're out of business. No, they said, you know what? Let's find a new market. Let's do money transfers. And they're thriving. They're better than ever. Yep. Nothing lasts forever. And so, like I said, I think AI is going to be scary to people who have been gatekeepers of this magic sauce called movies and art for a long time. But there are going to be people who are going to take advantage of it, and they're going to surprise you. And I think we're starting to see that sort of stuff. And I don't think it's a big, bad word. I think it can be.
To be fair, I also think AI is going to be revolutionary. It's going to be around forever. It is transformative in its own right. But also, man, when I see some of these images online, people are going to use it for amazing things. A lot of people are going to use it for a lot of crappy things. That's just the growing pains that we all have to suffer.
But that's everything that happened. That was just internet chat forums too. It's like, I loved it. I remember back in 1996, the first internet I ever had at home was the Sega Netlink on my Sega Saturn. That's how crappy it was. I was like, the internet. Oh my God. And then I had a web TV, and it came with a phone book for the internet. That's how old it was. It came with why not, right? But you go into a forum like, wow, other people like the same thing I do. This is going to be great. That's how dumb we were. and then because back in the day, people, they were so restrictive. If you went to a forum for Star Trek, or you went to a forum for like cats or something, then the people there wanted to be there. But now every topic, everything is just chaos and madness and everything, because it's so easy.
These companies want to suck everyone into the same conversation. They want you to connect and spend money.
Like if I'm on a forum about cats, it's going to be about Nazi cats. If I'm on a forum about macaroni and cheese, it's going to be Nazi macaroni and cheese. Like that's just how disruptive everything has become. It's become very unpleasant. Yeah.
It's a disruptive technology, but at the same time, it's not going anywhere. So hey, go buy your VHS. That'll solve everything. So with that being said, I have this other story. Not really going to get into it at all, Nathan. I think we're actually going to wrap it up. We have like one more topic where we're going to talk about Masters of the Universe real quick. But just wanted to throw it out there. If anyone wants to head out to computeramerica.com, check out the show notes, and you can check out this story where police have yet to catch a thief who used Waymo to steal yoga clothes. So essentially, they went in, they dashed into I believe Lululemon probably, stole a bunch of clothes, jumped into a Waymo taxi, and said, "Get me the heck out of here." And like a good getaway driver, Waymo obliged. And because the way that Waymo is set up, it blurs faces of people outside the vehicle, and it does not keep videos. It does record everything within the Waymo, but it does not keep that footage for very long. The police have no idea who took that Waymo and who took those clothes. So there you go, some food for thought.
Reminds me of that scene in Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger when he's on Mars and he jumps in the Johnny Cab, and the Johnny Cab is just this mannequin. He's like, "Where would you like to go?" He's like, "Get out of here." He's like, "I need a destination." And Arnold goes, just grabs him, rips the bot out, and drives the car.
Pretty close.
That's
Pretty
how
close.
Arnold solved every situation, by going and just ripping things out. That's how Arnold dealt with AI.
He still could if he wanted to get into politics. So, with that being said, if you're watching the video portion, we have Calcopia up here on the screen. And you may notice this was just published just a minute ago here on your site. And yeah, Masters of the Universe. I think we'll wrap it up here and just lead out with something fun. But yeah, if you're going out to go check out a movie, let's see. This was written by Susanna, one of your writers. Yeah, Masters of the Universe. What a franchise to resurrect, because I think He-Man always kind of played second fiddle to a lot of other superhero franchises. What do you think about this becoming live action?
Again?
Again.
It's been rebooted so many times, and the only good reboot was like in 2002, and that didn't last. Here's the thing. I haven't seen the movie. We're going to see it on Sunday, but I'm going in fully aware this movie is probably going to bomb badly. And part of it is because the company that's releasing it has done absolutely no work in advertising this to anyone who's not 40 years old. Like, I saw the commercial where they had the new kid who plays He-Man with Dolph Lundgren, and they're making fun of the Spider-Man meme, like, hey, looking at you.
Yeah.
And it's like
all the old memes, yes. Like, I think they even redid the video where hey ya with
dancing
blondes or whatever it is. Yeah.
But here's the thing, though, man. Like, He-Man was the first one of its kind. It was the first after the United States. The FCC laxed their policies where you couldn't advertise toys to children on prime time. So He-Man was the first. Like, a lot of people don't know this. I'll give you a quick recap. A lot of the stuff that we consider, canon of the 80s, like He-Man, Transformers, G.I. Joe, all that stuff, they were basically products of toys and comic books, because the companies Mattel and Hasbro would partner with Marvel Comics to create comic book storylines, because that's how you sold these things, as comic books with toys, right? That's how you got around it, which is also kind of one of the reasons why people love them so much, because you did have these great writers creating these amazing storylines. It wasn't just a guy. Okay, if I had to describe He-Man for you, just from memory, it's about a buffed up dude in a furry loincloth with a giant sword fighting a buff skeleton with abs, right?
But did he have the power? That's the question.
Yes, he had the power, the fabulous power that was revealed to him as his buffed out man with his friends Ram Man, Fistor, Stinkor. Like, there's nothing gay about this.
Nothing homoerotic about
this.
This
is the gayest show ever made, right? And kids loved it because it was campy. It was like, we can't have real Conan the Barbarian. That's too much, right? We can't have Flash Gordon, so we're going to have this version. And as a child, you're like, wait a minute, I want to be He-Man. He raises his sword, he rides his friendly cat, he beats the skeleton, and everything you see on the screen, you could buy. That was the template, the toys. And it was great for like 2 years, but it wore out. The storylines became derivative and everything. But long story short, they tried to reboot this thing. The first He-Man movie, with Dolph Lundgren, horrible movie, but kind of fun because it was made by Canon Films. They didn't care. It's on Tubi. Watch it, right? But and poor Dolph, Dolph Lundgren. But this movie is made by a guy named Travis Knight. He's an animator. He worked for Leica, the animation company. What movies did he direct? He did the Box Trolls. No, he didn't direct that. But he worked on Paranorman, the Box Trolls. He directed Bumblebee. And he's doing a new movie also coming out this year called Wildwood, which looks pretty good. He's an animator. He's made other nostalgia stuff. He made a really good Transformers movie. This movie looks like fun. It looks like fun. The reviews have been mostly positive, but it's going to bomb because it's not being advertised to the right demographic. This should be advertised to little kids. Little kids should like this.
There was a fairly recent movie, and it's just blowing out of my head completely. But it received the latest Mario movie, of course, such mid reviews. Saying it's whatever. But it was marketed so well that
kids.
It just blew
and
up
they're adults.
The box office.
Yeah. We did a podcast about that on Calcopia with Ethan, where he didn't like it as much as the first one. But the argument was it was not for necessarily him; it was for his children. It's a generational thing. He-Man should have been marketed for the 40-year-olds and their kids. The kids should be excited about this. Oh my God, are you He-Man? I haven't seen a commercial for the toys. I haven't seen anything for children. Like, you cannot you cannot resurrect a franchise when everyone's like middle-aged. You can't do that.
Right.
Like, if you're a grown man with children, you're not.
Star Wars did it better.
Look,
Yeah.
Look, I know this is Pride Month, right? But let me say that I apologize to any LGBT person if I offend you with this. But if you're a middle-aged straight man, you should not be getting excited about going to see this, because this is a man who's half naked and buff, like holding a sword, and you need more than that. You need more than that. Like, you better make sure that you have someone with you. Like, it needs to be more. You need to show your kids how exciting and cool this is. You know, you need more than just this. It's a cool idea, and apparently the movie's really funny. It's supposed to be, and I love the way they did Skeletor. Like, Skeletor is a big goofball, and apparently he's a big goofball in the movie, right?
Good.
Big campy prima donna. Camp is fun. I love camp, right? But again, there's been no outreach to kids for this, man. There's been, I don't understand why. And if it bombs, they're going to say no one likes He-Man. Kids don't know who He-Man is. They have no concept of. When Transformers was rebooted 20 years ago, it was sky high. The interest was sky high. They did a really good outreach to kids. There was toys and Happy Meals and everything. You know, cars, nothing for He-Man. Nothing. Not a single thing. And it's so sad.
Yep. Well, I think speaking of so sad, I think we're going to leave it there. And Nathan,
Yeah.
I want to say that, this was a show, a couple weeks late, couple weeks in the making, but it's been a great show nonetheless. So everyone out there, Calcopia.com, if you want to check that out, we have a link over Computer America if you want to be navigated there, or just head on over Calcopia.com. And yeah, you have this. You mentioned a couple podcasts that you've done. You, of course, have gaming reviews, book reviews, a little bit of tech reviews, of course. That's our crossover. And yeah, Nathan, always pleasant to hear from you. And thank you for coming on the show.
Awesome.
All right, everyone, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Do something fun this weekend. Hey, maybe be one of the 5 people to go see He-Man. Who knows? You might be the special person that goes and sees it. And everyone out there, thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you here next time. Until then, have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.